Over 500 concertos, performances that electrified every royal court in Europe, a name so dominant that Bach himself transcribed his scores note by note. And then, silence, forgotten for nearly 2 centuries. Was Vivaldi just a great composer, or the man who secretly shaped how music feels today? The answer rewrites everything you think you know about the music you hear right now. And the whole orchestra seems to breathe in the scent of spring. In Vivaldi's hands, music doesn't just sound, it paints. Each bar of the Four Seasons is packed with coded signals, a secret language where every gesture means something concrete. The solo violin leaps and darts, mimicking birdsong with rapid-fire trills and nimble scales. Violins and violas hold a stubborn drone, conjuring bagpipes in a rustic meadow. In the slow movement, gentle pizzicato in the lower strings mimics raindrops, while the soloist rocks softly above, a musical nap under a warm sky. Then, a storm gathers. Bowed tremolos whip up the wind, and a sudden rush of notes cracks like thunder. In summer, the orchestra builds oppressive heat through relentless repeated notes, only to break open with a violent downpour, violins slashing downward, cellos surging like floodwaters. Winter is all brittle energy, icy scales, shivering 16th notes, and pizzicato that rattles like chattering teeth. Each effect is calculated, not random. Vivaldi's writing for violin was revolutionary. He demanded sharp attacks, quick bow changes, and a rhythmic drive that made the whole ensemble feel urgent and alive. He didn't just describe nature, he programmed it into sound. Every technique, from the smallest trill to the largest orchestral swell, was chosen to make listeners see and feel what they heard. For the first time, instrumental music became a kind of theatre, weather, animals, and human emotion, all conjured from wood and gut strings. This changed everything. A single phrase, just a handful of notes, lodges in memory like a scent after rain. This is Vivaldi's secret weapon: brevity, repetition, hooks that travel. In the Four Seasons, the main refrain returns every 20 or 30 seconds, always the same, yet always transformed. The opening of spring, those bright trills and bounding leaps, comes back so often that even first-time listeners can hum along before the music ends. It's not just melody, but design. Short motifs snapped into place become signposts in the musical landscape. Each time the orchestra bursts in, it's a familiar face in a crowd of surprises. This is called ritornello form, a kind of musical home base. Vivaldi didn't invent it, but he turned it into an engine for memory. The orchestra states a bold theme, steps aside for the soloist's adventures, then swoops back in with the refrain. It's the ancestor of the pop chorus, the cinematic theme, the unforgettable hook. The effect is almost physical. Tension builds, release follows, and the listener is pulled along by invisible threads. Vivaldi's motifs are small but mighty. A single rising scale, a chattering rhythm, a pulsing drone. These fragments glue the story together. Bach noticed. He borrowed Vivaldi's refrains, weaving them into his own concertos. Mozart too would later chase that feeling, the thrill of a phrase that returns just when you need it, a musical idea that refuses to fade. In Vivaldi's hands, repetition isn't laziness, it's a tool for making music stick, for turning sound into something you can't forget. And this is where it gets interesting. The same tricks that made Vivaldi's music a sensation in Venice still shape how we hear, remember, and feel music today. The scale of his operation was something new, almost industrial. Amsterdam printers like Estienne Roger and Michel Charles-Le Chesne churned out his concertos by the dozen, shipping scores across Europe from London to Dresden. Opus 3, L'Estro Armonico, became a bestseller, reprinted more than 20 times in just a few decades. For a composer, this was the equivalent of going viral, and suddenly Vivaldi's name meant something in every court and salon, from Paris to Prague. But the real engine of this fame was the Ospedale della Pieta. Inside its walls, Vivaldi led an orchestra of orphaned girls, trained to play like professionals. He wrote new music for them every week, concertos, motets, sinfonias, sometimes composing at a pace that seems impossible now. Over 500 concertos survive, but the true number may be higher. The Pieta's ensemble was legendary, drawing visitors from across Europe who came not just for the music, but for the spectacle of a composer who could turn out masterpieces on demand. Vivaldi wasn't just prolific, he was a force. His works flooded the market, copied and recopied, adapted by other composers, and performed by musicians who had never set foot in Venice. The scale was staggering, the reach unprecedented. For a moment it felt like Vivaldi was everywhere, but nobody expected how quickly the world would change. By the late 1730s, the crowds in Venice had thinned. The world that once clamoured for Vivaldi's concertos turned away, drawn to new fashions, cleaner lines, softer harmonies, a taste for simplicity that swept Europe almost overnight. The gallant style, with its gentle melodies and clear phrases, made Vivaldi's vivid storms and relentless rhythms sound old-fashioned, even noisy. Opera houses that once fought for his latest works now closed their doors. Publishers in Amsterdam stopped printing his scores. The Ospedale della Pieta, his home for decades, cut commissions and brought in younger composers. His manuscripts, once a prized export, were sold off cheaply, sometimes by the pound. He tried to chase the changing winds, moving to Vienna in 1740, hoping for a fresh start under Emperor Charles VI. But the emperor died within months, and with him, Vivaldi's last hope vanished. In July 1741, Vivaldi died in poverty, buried in a simple grave. No mourners, no music. The man who had once been everywhere was suddenly nowhere at all. The speed of his fall feels familiar. In today's world, an artist can top the streaming charts one month and disappear the next. Their songs skipped after a few seconds if they don't hook a restless audience. The attention economy moves fast, and so did the world that left Vivaldi behind. He was everywhere until he wasn't. The world moved on fast. This is where everything collapsed. This isn't Venice in 1725, it's Max Richter's recomposed The Four Seasons, released in 2012, where Vivaldi's birdsong motif becomes a hypnotic engine. Richter keeps just enough of the original, those bounding trills, the pulsing ostinato, to trigger instant recognition, then spins them into a soundscape that feels as modern as any film score. The trick is, he is using the same building blocks Vivaldi perfected: short repeatable motifs, a driving bass, the ritornello as memory anchor. Listen to a blockbuster trailer cue, say Hans Zimmer's Time from Inception. Under the swelling strings, a relentless pattern pulses, layering tension with every cycle. It is Vivaldi's logic: reborn, repetition, escalation, release. Epic trailer music builders like Two Steps from Hell rely on these same techniques, stacking ostinatos and refrains to grab attention in seconds. The DNA is clear. Whether it is a Baroque concerto or a streaming-era soundtrack, the secret is the same: hooks that travel, rhythms that refuse to let go. Vivaldi's toolkit didn't just survive, it became the blueprint. In the early 20th century, Vivaldi's name was a whisper in the corners of music history. His manuscripts were scattered, and his genius was buried beneath dust and indifference. But then a spark. In Turin, a trove of forgotten scores surfaced, setting off a wave of excitement among scholars and musicians. Italian composer Gianfrancesco Malipiero began piecing together the fragments, publishing critical editions that put Vivaldi back on the map. Soon after, Danish musicologist Peter Riom published the Riom Verzeichnis, creating the RV catalogue in 1973, finally giving order to the chaos. For the first time, more than 800 works had a home, each concerto and sonata numbered and authenticated. Modern ensembles, armed with these new additions, rushed to bring Vivaldi's voice back to life. Recordings multiplied, concert halls filled, and the Four Seasons became a staple of the classical repertoire. Alfred Einstein, the influential music historian, praised Vivaldi's rhythmic fire and melodic invention, helping to cement his place in the pantheon. The revival was not just about nostalgia, it was a revelation. Vivaldi's music, once dismissed as formulaic, now pulsed with energy and colour. What had been lost was suddenly essential again. The world heard Vivaldi anew, urgent, relevant, and impossible to ignore. The world moved on, fast. Yet every film score, every vivid musical image still echoes Vivaldi's blueprint for storytelling in music. In the global music industry, his rhythm and emotion shape how we feel sound itself. He was forgotten, but his music never disappeared. It was already everywhere.